Northern Japan, winter 1605 AD. Snow fell quietly over a mountain road while a young samurai dragged himself through the dark forest. His armor was light, his sword was sharp, his body was healthy, yet every step felt heavy, like he was carrying a cart full of stones behind his ribs. For months, he had trained harder than the other students. He slept early, ate simple food, woke before sunrise. Still, he felt tired all the time. Not normal tiredness, a deeper kind. The kind that follows you into the morning. The kind that makes your spirit feel older than your body. One night, after collapsing during sword practice, he asked his master a question. "Why do I feel weak when I am doing everything right?" The old master looked at him for a long moment, then pointed toward a painting hanging inside the dojo. A drawing of Miyamoto Musashi, the wandering swordsman who fought dozens of deadly duels, walked across Japan alone, slept on cold floors, and still carried a calm mind until old age. Then the master said something the young samurai never forgot. Musashi was not stronger than other men. He simply carried less. The student frowned in confusion because everyone believed the problem was hard work. But the real problem was invisible weight. The master picked up a small stone from the ground and placed it into the student's hand. Every fear you replay, every opinion you chase, every comparison, every distraction, every part of your life that is not truly yours. He placed another stone on top. Becomes weight your spirit must carry. In that moment, the young samurai understood something most people never realize. A man can rest all day and still wake up exhausted if his mind never puts down its burden. At Thymuscode, your path to growth and clarity, we explore timeless psychological and philosophical principles that help modern people reclaim clarity, discipline, peace, and inner power. If you are ready to walk away from noise, confusion, and constant mental exhaustion, subscribe, let's walk. You have spent your life carrying a massive, invisible boulder. You carry the need for your father's approval, the fear of being seen as weak, and the constant urge to compare your progress to those around you. Every time you try to impress a stranger, you add a stone. Every time you hesitate because you worry about what the neighbors think, you add another. Your spirit is a vessel meant for water, but you have filled it with heavy, useless rocks. You feel drained not because you are running a race, but because you are running in circles while wearing lead shoes. You have been performing for an audience that isn't even watching, and that performance is the leak draining your life force. The ancient samurai believed energy could return when unnecessary weight was removed. They called this the stone removal method, and by the end of this video, you will understand why your mind feels heavy, why your energy keeps leaking, and how to finally walk through life without dragging invisible stones behind you. Section 1. The Enlightenment. Why you wake up tired. Hiroto entered the mountain dojo of Master Takamori carrying the hunger of a man desperate to become unforgettable. Before sunrise, he was already training. Long after the lanterns dimmed, he was still striking wooden posts with bruised hands and shaking legs. He denied himself comfort, believing discipline meant constant suffering. Yet with every passing month, his strength seemed to vanish instead of grow. By the 8th month, exhaustion clung to him like winter rain. He woke each morning with heavy eyes and a restless chest. He falls asleep only to find no rest at all. During sparring, his movements became stiff and delayed, as if something invisible was pulling against him. One evening, after being effortlessly defeated by a quieter, less experienced student, Hiroto sat alone outside the training hall, humiliated. Master Takamori approached without a sound, and he beckons the young man to walk with him into the cedar garden behind the dojo. The old master stopped beside a stone lantern flickering softly in the dark. "Tell me," Takamori said calmly, "what is it you truly seek from your training?" Hiroto lowered his gaze. "Respect, recognition, proof that I am worthy." The master studied him for a moment before speaking. "That is why your spirit is suffocating." He knelt beside the lantern and lifted an old iron chain resting near its base. The metal links rattled softly in the night air. "Every time you train to impress others," Takamori said, wrapping one end around Hiroto's wrist, "another chain is added." He continued slowly. "One for your fear of being ordinary. Another loop. One for your guilt whenever you rest. Another. one for your obsession with how others see you. Though the chains were light, Hiroto suddenly felt his body grow heavier with each word. His shoulders tightened, his breathing shortened. Then the realization struck him. He had not been sharpening himself like a warrior. He had been binding himself. Every thought, every comparison, every desperate need for approval had become another link dragging behind him. His exhaustion did not come from training too hard, but from carrying invisible chains everywhere he went. Chains he had mistaken for discipline. Section 2. The core principle. The samurai law of energy. The next morning, Master Takamori led Hiroto beyond the dojo gates and into the deep mountains. Cold wind moved through the cedar trees, and the path grew steeper with every step. Hiroto carried 2 heavy buckets of water across his shoulders, yet the old master walked ahead of him with calm, steady breathing. Hours passed before they reached a narrow cliff path overlooking the valley below. There, Takamori finally stopped. In the distance, 2 travelers climbed the same mountain road. The first man struggled beneath a massive bundle of stones tied across his back. His steps were slow and his body bent forward under the weight. Every few moments, he stopped to breathe. The second man carried nothing. He walked upright, light, steady, peaceful. Takamori pointed toward them. Both men walk the same path, he said, yet only one suffers. Hiroto watched silently. The weak man believes the mountain is exhausting him, but the mountain is not the problem. The weight is. The old master turned toward him. Most people think energy is created. They believe more sleep, more motivation, or more comfort will save them. He shook his head slowly. Energy is not created. Energy is conserved. The words settled heavily inside Hiroto's chest. Takamori picked up a branch and drew a circle in the dirt. When your mind fights itself, energy leaks away. When your attention splits in many directions, energy disappears. When fear, anger, comparison, and distraction fill the spirit, the body becomes heavy. He drew another line beside it. Straight, simple. Miyamoto Musashi understood this better than any warrior in Japan. The master's voice grew quieter. He once wrote, "Do nothing which is of no use." Hiroto frowned slightly. "Only that?" Takamori nodded. Simple words, difficult life. He pointed again toward the struggling traveler below. Most men carry emotional clutter everywhere they go. Old shame, fear of failure, the need to impress others, endless thoughts with no purpose. Then he pointed toward the second traveler. But the warrior who removes what is unnecessary walks freely. Cold wind swept across the cliffside. For the first time, Hiroto began to understand why his spirit always felt crowded. The master looked into his eyes. "The tired mind is not overworked," he said calmly. "It is overloaded." Silence filled the mountain path. Then Takamori turned and began walking again. "Remember this, Hiroto." His voice carried softly through the trees. Before a warrior becomes stronger, he becomes lighter. Section 3. Training Arc, the Stone Removal Method. Master Takamori began the training of the spirit. He first addressed the poison of comparison. He blindfolded Hiroto and ordered him to spar against the senior students. Without eyes to measure himself against their speed or posture, Hiroto stopped looking outward. He felt the air move. He sensed the rhythm of the match. For the first time, his movements became fluid, and his energy stabilized. He realized that when he stopped trying to be better than others, he finally became better than himself. Next, the master attacked the habit of distraction. He watched Hiroto struggle to keep his focus while chopping wood. Takamori struck the wood from his hand. "When you eat, only eat. When you walk, only walk. When you train, only train." He forced Hiroto to perform every simple task as if it were his only purpose in life. Hiroto felt his mind resisting, but as the fragmentation faded, moments of pure flow began to appear. He stopped leaking his focus, and his exhaustion began to retreat. The third stone to remove was the need for validation. Takamori sent Hiroto to the deep forest to train alone for 7 days. No masters watched, no peers cheered, no enemies threatened. In the silence, Hiroto felt the urge to perform for an invisible audience. But there was no one to please. When he dropped the need to be seen, he finally found the strength to be present. The training that once felt like a performance now felt like a prayer. presence restored what his ambition had stolen. Finally, the master challenged the internal resistance that caused the deepest fatigue. He commanded Hiroto to carry water from the icy stream to the monastery gardens every morning before dawn. Hiroto hated the cold water and the heavy buckets. He fought the task in his mind, grumbling with every step. Takamori stood by the garden gate, watching. "The work does not tire you, Hiroto. Your resistance to the work does." Hiroto let go of his complaints. He stopped fighting the mountain and started walking with it. As his resistance dissolved, a profound stillness emerged. The weight remained, but the struggle vanished. He was no longer a man running in circles. He was a warrior at peace with his path. Section 4. Modern Psychology. Why modern men are always exhausted. Master Takamori sat cross-legged in the center of the silent dojo, his eyes fixed on Hiroto. "You wonder why the men in the bustling trade cities look old before their time," the master began, his voice like grinding stone. "They do not carry heavy baskets of rice, yet their backs are bent. They do not fight in wars, yet their eyes are hollow. They are not carrying stones in their hands, but they carry 1,000 invisible burdens in their minds." He described a world of constant noise, a storm that never ends. In this world, the mind is forced to jump like a panicked monkey from one distraction to the next, never landing, never resting. "The mind is a furnace," Takamori continued, leaning forward. "When you constantly shift your mask to please a stranger or check your rank against your neighbor, you are not resting. You are throwing precious wood into a fire that consumes your very spirit." He explained that modern life is a series of tiny, draining choices. Every notification, every social comparison, and every piece of useless gossip acts as a leak. The nervous system becomes a frayed rope, pulled in too many directions at once, until there is no room left for the silence required for true growth. Hiroto felt a cold shiver of realization. He saw his own exhaustion mirrored in this chaos. He had spent his days chasing the approval of people who did not care about him. He had spent his nights fearing the judgment of those he did not even respect. This psychological noise was the leak in his foundation. He was trying to win a race while looking in 100 different directions, and the friction of his own thoughts was burning him alive from the inside. A distracted mind burns energy faster than hard work ever could, the master warned. He grabbed a handful of sand and let it slip through his fingers. "This is your focus. When it is scattered, it is useless. But when it is gathered, it can cut through stone." Hiroto understood that his fatigue was not a lack of power, but a lack of protection. He had allowed the world to clutter his spirit with garbage, and that clutter had become a weight more heavy than any mountain path. Takamori stood, his presence grounding the room like an ancient oak. The ancient warrior protected his attention like his life depended on it, because it did. In a duel, a split second of distraction means a cold blade in the heart. Hiroto looked at his own hands, finally seeing the invisible chains of modern distraction. He realized he had to stop the relentless consumption of useless thoughts. He had to guard his focus against the noise of the age, knowing that a quiet mind is the only vessel strong enough to hold a warrior's true power. "You have been a slave to every passing thought," the master concluded. "Now you must become the gatekeeper of your own spirit. To walk the path of clarity, you must learn to be deaf to the world so you can finally hear yourself." Hiroto bowed, the silence of the dojo no longer feeling empty, but full of the energy he had been throwing away. He was ready to stop the leaks. He was ready to be still. Section 5. The Real Test. The Man Who Could Not Be Shaken. The test arrived on a humid afternoon in late summer. A ronin named Kurogana, scarred and desperate, marched into the dojo seeking to make a name for himself. He was a man of brute force, his eyes wild with the need for validation. The other students watched with bated breath, certain that Hiroto would be broken by such a ferocious opponent. The duel began at sunset. Rain tapped softly against the wooden floors as both men stepped into the center of the courtyard. Kurogane drew his steel with a guttural roar, charging across the floor. He swung his blade with reckless, heavy strokes, desperate to end the fight in a single strike. He was a storm of noise, anger, and ego. Hiroto stood his ground, his feet light upon the wooden planks. He did not tighten his grip. He did not brace for impact. He simply watched the Ronin's eyes, noting the fear hidden behind the aggression. Hiroto moved like water, sliding around the wild arcs of the blade. He did not attack. He did not force a result. He was entirely unattached to the outcome, fully present in the rhythm of the moment. As the fight intensified, Master Takamori's voice cut through the clash of wood and rain. "Look at his grip, Hiroto," the master commanded. "You are practicing Mushin, the state of no mind. The great warrior Tsukahara Bukuden used this to win hundreds of duels without ever being struck. He did not think about the sword. He became the space the sword could not touch." Takamori explained that Bukuden's secret was not speed, but the total removal of internal resistance. By having no ego to defend, he had no target for the enemy to hit. "In your daily life," Takamori continued, even as the Ronin's blade whistled past Hiroto's ear, "this is how you handle the storms of the world. When a man insults you or a crisis strikes, do not meet it with tension. If you are empty, the insult has nowhere to land. If you are rigid, you break. If you are empty, you endure." This revelation transformed Hiroto's movement. He stopped fighting the Ronin and began simply occupying the space where the Ronin was not. He realized that modern stress is just a frantic Ronin. If you don't give it a target of ego or worry to hit, it eventually collapses from its own weight. The Ronin began to stagger. His breath became a jagged, desperate rasp. His heavy swing slowed, his shoulders slumped, and the fire in his eyes dimmed into panic. He had poured every ounce of his spirit into the effort of winning, and now he had nothing left to give. He dropped his guard, his knees hitting the floor, completely defeated not by a blow, but by his own exhaustion. Kurogan had fought with the strength of a man carrying a mountain. Hiroto had fought with the lightness of the wind. Hiroto did not even raise his sword. He stood perfectly still, his breathing as steady as a mountain lake. He felt no pride, no relief, and no hunger for victory. He only felt the clarity of a spirit that was not fighting itself. Master Takamori watched from the shadows, a faint smile touching his lips. Hiroto had finally learned the truth that legendary masters had known for centuries. The calm mind defeats the frantic mind every single time, because the calm mind does not waste energy on useless friction. Hiroto walked to the center of the room and bowed to the fallen man. In the silence of the dojo, he understood the lesson. He had not won because he was stronger. He had won because he was lighter. He had discarded the stones of ego and doubt, finding a power that did not leak away. He was no longer a vessel straining to hold water. He was the river itself, moving around every obstacle without losing a single drop of his soul. Section 6. Final Realization. The Truth About Tiredness. The winter snow of 1697 fell softly against the gates of Hiroto's mountain dojo. Inside, Hiroto sat in perfect stillness, his breath a faint mist in the cold air. The gate creaked open, and a young man named Jiro stumbled in, his face pale and his hands shaking as he gripped his sword hilt. Jiro did not look like a warrior. He looked like a man drowning on dry land. He had traveled from the capital, fueled by a desperate hunger to be the strongest, yet he could barely stand. He collapsed at Hiroto's feet, whispering that he had done everything right. He had trained until his hands bled and studied until his eyes failed, yet he felt utterly hollow. Hiroto looked down at the boy and saw a mirror of his own past ghost. He reached into a stone basin and pulled out a heavy, jagged rock, placing it into Jiro's trembling palm. "You seek strength to carry your life," Hiroto said, his voice echoing in the silent hall. "But your life is not heavy. Your attachments are." He added a second stone, then a third. Each time the boy's arm dipped lower, his muscles straining against the weight. "This stone is your fear of being ordinary. This one is the resentment you hold for those who move faster than you. This one is the lie that you must suffer to be worthy." The boy's eyes filled with tears as the physical weight forced him to his knees. Hiroto leaned in, his gaze piercing. "In your daily life, you do the same. You wake up and immediately pick up the stones of yesterday's mistakes. You go to work and carry the heavy opinions of men you do not even like. You return home and shoulder the burden of a future that hasn't happened yet." Hiroto gripped the boy's wrist, forcing him to feel the cold reality of the rocks. "The world is not draining you, Jiro. You are draining yourself by refusing to let go of what was never yours to carry. The emotional tension in the room reached a breaking point as Hiroto stood up, leaving the boy struggling with the weight. The great masters like Musashi did not have more energy than you, he reframed. They simply had less friction. They moved through life like a blade through silk because they had no jagged edges of ego to catch on the fabric of the world. He explained that the secret to infinite energy in daily life is not found in a better rest, but in a cleaner spirit. If you remove the need for approval and the ghost of comparison, the path ahead becomes a downhill slope rather than a mountain climb. The goal is not to become a stronger beast of burden, Hiroto declared, his voice rising with authority. The goal is to stop being a beast of burden at all. Jiro looked at the stones. Then slowly, one by one, he opened his fingers. The rocks hit the wooden floor with a series of dull thuds that sounded like chains breaking. As the final stone fell, the boy's shoulders straightened, his breathing slowed. The frantic, haunted look in his eyes vanished, replaced by a terrifyingly sharp clarity. He realized that the exhaustion wasn't in his muscles. It was in the grip he had maintained on his own suffering. Hiroto handed Jiro a simple wooden broom. Now, you begin, not by adding new skills, but by sweeping away the debris of who you thought you had to be. Jiro took the broom, his movements suddenly light and purposeful. He understood now that true power is not the ability to endure weight, but the wisdom to walk without it. The lesson was etched into the silence of the dojo. To find the energy to change the world, you must first find the courage to drop the world. The warrior's path is not a climb to the peak. It is a shedding of the stones until only the mountain remains. Section 7. Timeless Ending, the Straight Path. The sun rises over the mountains, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and violet. Inside the dojo, Hiroto moves with the quiet rhythm of a master. He holds a broom, sweeping the wooden floor with precise, steady strokes. There is no urgency in his movements. There is no desire to finish quickly to move on to the next task. He is simply sweeping. His breath is deep, his posture is relaxed, and his mind is as still as the morning air. Years ago, he would have viewed this task as a waste of his potential. He would have hurried to finish, worrying if the master noticed his effort or if he should be doing something more impressive to prove his worth. Now he sees the beauty in the simple act. He is not running in circles, feeding a fire of ambition that never warms the heart. He is walking a straight path, one breath, one stroke at a time. The warrior who walks in circles becomes exhausted. The warrior who walks straight never tires. It is a lesson that has echoed through the halls of history, whispered by the great swordsmen of the past, and kept alive by those who seek the truth beneath the noise. At Thymoscode, your path to growth and clarity, we continue studying the ancient disciplines that help modern men reclaim focus, purpose, and inner strength. We do not offer quick fixes or empty promises. We offer the practice of removing the stones that you were never meant to carry, so that you may finally walk your path with the lightness of a spirit set free. The weight you feel is not a requirement of life. It is the cost of your own attachments. You do not need to become a machine to survive the modern world. You only need to become a master of your own attention. The problem was never your lack of energy. It was everything draining it. Thank you for walking with me. See you in the next one.